Welcome to The Myth of Motherhood, a podcast by, for, and about moms and those who love them. I don't believe in TMI, and this is a 100% judgment-free zone because there is no one right way to be a mother. There is only your right way. I'm your host, Alyssa Alter, a Brooklyn-based mom, women's health expert, and motherhood advocate. Curious to learn more about what I do and why I do it? Visit alyssa-alter.com. All right, let's get this myth-busting party started.
Welcome back. Today's episode is, this is awesome. And I'm going to start by saying something that, I don't know, it might feel mean. It's not intended to be mean, but you're getting older every day. That was the thing I was going to say. I'm getting older every day also. This is something that is true. This is something that we are really lucky to get to do, right? Wake up every day and get a little bit older. And this is something that we are supposed to be really mad about, right? And we're supposed to do everything we can to fight this until like our knuckles are bleeding with everything we've got. And the reason that I say this is that menopause is one of the things we don't talk about that much. Or when we do, it's just sort of the same. We talk about hot flashes. We talk about, hot flashes. And then I guess romanticizing not getting your period anymore. Although listen, there are times where that does feel like a really romantic thought. And in our conversation today with Alessandra Henderson, who is one of the co-founders and the CEO of Elektra Health, she is sharing with us about how menopause isn't just correlated with age. There are many scenarios in which women experience menopause, where there are situations where we are put into menopause. There are situations where it happens early. There are all sorts of things going on. And fun fact, that hormone crash that was super exciting after giving birth, that like immediate hormone crash postpartum that resulted in like night sweats, the baby blues, your vagina being drier than like the desert. Those are all symptoms of menopause because that hormone crash, that decrease, they're very similar. What's happening chemically in our bodies postpartum and menopause during perimenopause that leads to menopause. We get into that in the episode. They are very similar. So a couple of the reasons I'm excited about today's episode is that Alessandra is so cool. And this is something that we need to talk about. And she is on a mission to smash the menopause taboo. And I just could not support that more because I feel like I'm on a mission to smash all the freaking taboos. How niche is that, right? Anyway, she is brilliant, and you can learn more about Elektra Health, their resources, which there are communities, there are guides and education, there's information. They're becoming a member of Elektra Health. You can be paired with a menopause doula. How magical does that sound? Right? To help guide you through your experience, because this is something, menopause is the anniversary of it being 1 year since you had your period. So for that whole year beforehand of not having it, but then all years before that, as your body is transitioning, so much is going on. And this is one of those scenarios where by not talking about it, by not being informed, by not having the education, we are left to suffer in silence, to feel insane, to be uncomfortable, to tolerate trash. And you know that I don't stand for that in any regard, in any facet of your life, and certainly not in anything involving the female experience and our female bodies. It is time for us to talk about this. And listen, I'm preaching to the choir. That's why you are here. Anyway, you can learn more at elektrahealth.com or on Instagram at Elektra Health. And that is spelled Elektra. I cannot wait to hear what you think about today's episode. And I really want to just take a moment and congratulate you and applaud you and thank you for listening to this and taking some time to learn about perimenopause and menopause and what's really happening and what we can expect, instead of just waiting to be in the throes of it and like clawing your way out. Let's go in with knowledge. Knowledge is power. Let's go in with the information that we deserve to have. I hope you have as much fun as I did.
And so before we dive in, I want to give you an opportunity, while I introduced you in the intro to the episode, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, what you do and why you do it.
Sure. Gosh, how long do we have?
I know. Is this a long bio or the short bio?
Yeah. Who's the audience? So I'm Alessandra Henderson, the co-founder and CEO of Elektra Health. Elektra Health is a women's health company on a mission to smash the menopause taboo.
Hell yeah.
We're really about empowering women around their hormonal health with evidence-based education, care, and community, really starting with menopause, but using that as an unlock for kind of everything that's to come around a woman's hormonal health. In terms of introducing myself, the quick professional bio, and then I'll move into personal, which is hopefully a little bit more interesting or really speaks to why I do what I do. But my background is in startups and technology.
Amazing.
I came into the tech and startup space through my original passion, which was art. So in 2010, I joined as the 6th employee at an art and technology company called Artsy, which is putting the $66 billion art market online. And I just fell in love with building companies, building teams, building products, building brand. It was really my crash course, and I'm very much a learn by doing kind of person. And since then, I've just been hooked on the kind of startups and early stage innovation space. But why, I took the plunge to build Elektra after a personal hormonal health journey of my own, which so many, I think, female entrepreneurs are doing, right? It's driven by an internal mission and an experience that I faced, which was about several years ago. I was getting quite sick. And, my health just felt really out of control. In that process, I discovered integrative holistic medicine, which is kind of deeply embedded in the ethos of Elektra today. But also in that process, I froze my eggs. I'm sure you've had potentially an episode on egg freezing. But I froze my eggs, and the hormones from egg freezing impacted my eyesight.
Whoa. Right. Not something you hear every day.
You don't.
Yet a conversation, like something we should hear.
Yeah. So a patch that I put down by my ovaries impacted my vision and the way that I moved through the world. And my world was just blown, right? Or my mind was blown.
Yeah.
And of course, since then, I've discovered the massive impact that, estrogen, progesterone, even testosterone has on women's bodies. And it was my kind of wedge in, my entry point into kind of an obsession with women's health and a real drive and mission to help educate women and people who are born female, because this does extend into trans men as well. But just to empower folks over their hormonal health and really taking control. Yes. I'll only say one thing, and I know this is turning into the longest intro.
No, I love it.
Feel free to edit as much as you want, but I'll only say one more thing, which is, I tell that story as just one of the episodes in a very long kind of hormonal health journey that I've had. That includes pregnancy, miscarriage, DNC, all of the many things that listeners of this podcast have experienced. It is incredibly important and rewarding that we start with education to talk about what's going on, no matter where you are, if you're 20 or if you're 15, 20, you're 30 or 40 or 50 and 60. It is a continuum, and we must help educate and empower women across the full spectrum of our journey. So.
Yeah, and there's a steep learning curve because for so long in science, women have been treated as small men. And we recently had a conversation with one of the co-founders and the CEO of Evie, Priyanka.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so glad you know her.
I love Priyanka. We work from the same office, actually. So it is a very strong female. Yeah, we share an investor and...
well, next time you see her, tell her I say hi and how much, I love that. I love this connection. And, it's a similar story. It was born out of having questions about this. And we talk questions about our own experiences and looking around and looking for resources. And there aren't any because science, we've been treated as small men, and we're just not. We're not. We're different. We're unique, and it is complicated. It is complicated to test on women because women as a whole have our infradian rhythm, and then each woman has her own, which also varies dependent, based on external factors, internal factors, and all sorts of things. And it really does start with us having the information, having conversations about this so that we can ask questions. Because you can't ask questions if you don't have any of the words. And it is so important because I also feel like, especially when it comes to menopause, but it also, like you said, like that's a great starting point, but it applies to the entire female experience.
Yes.
When that is and I'm talking about the biology and the chemistry rather than however it is you are expressing it. We just, it's just been ignored. Like everything is just, anytime you have something, it's like, oh, that's normal because women get hot flashes. And I'm like, well, I'm actually telling you this is not normal for me, and something is different and changing and something feels wrong. But then we're gaslit everywhere. Yeah. And so starting with, and especially menopause, I feel like has really been brushed aside because menopause means we're old. And in this society and in our culture, we do everything possible to never be perceived as old. And like, I'm saying it dramatically to try to make the point of how dumb that is because we're getting older. Like, and listen, I'm a woman. I get it. Yeah. I'm not immune, but we're getting older every day. And if we are lucky, we will live to go through not the thing that's also cool that people don't talk about is that like menopause is the period at the end of the sentence or the not period. Perimenopause is happening for years beforehand and making your life miserable.
Yeah.
Because we don't have information, because we don't have the tools to meet ourselves where we're at and support these shifts and changes that are going on in our bodies. And it's just, we got to talk about it.
So, gosh, there's so many directions I want to go in, but I'll start, building off of that. I'll start with, I fundamentally believe that you can, quote, prescribe education because it really starts there.
That's like a whole thing. Like,
well, right, because the way that our healthcare system has largely been built, especially around reimbursements, and don't get me started, but is around prescribing or surgery or procedures. But we've really, the old paradigm, or what we are used to, is that doctor is expert. You are patient. You are not expected to question their authority, or you're supposed to just listen and kind of walk out the door.
Yeah.
In the last several years, decade, years, however long, as we've become more empowered with access to education and information, you can start to bring in your own you can start to question, what you're told. You can also start to maximize and actually make better use of those, your conversations with your doctor. We actually have experts at Elektra that we work with who say it's such a more productive conversation when I have someone who kind of understands what the biology or understands what's going on with their body, because we can start to talk about solutions as opposed to ground zero.
And I love the way... the way you presented that, because I think sort of a more common perception is that if you're going to ask your doctor a question, that it's very contrarian, like if you're not just blindly following, you're fighting your doctor. And there is another option where then it can become a conversation and a collaboration. Like you're saying, your experts say that it's like, wow, we can really strategize solutions together that feel good for you. And this also supports something I've been thinking about a lot, because there have been a lot of opportunities to vilify doctors. And I love doctors, right? And doctors doctor. Right? They're operating in a system that is limited. Their training is what their training is in. Like my OB is not also a doula. And also, thank God, like my OB had to stitch my anal sphincter back together. I'm really glad that she specializes in that and isn't a master of all, like the master of none type of thing. Like, hallelujah. And I also fully believe that a person does not go to medical school, then residency, then maybe a fellowship, and then all of that. Listen, I've watched Grey's Anatomy. I know what they go through. And that they don't do that without wanting to care for people. Yes. So then an opportunity to collaborate with someone who wants care and they get to care, like, I feel like that's a gift.
Yes. And it's really important that you say this, because we work with so many incredible doctors who feel like, especially as we come out of COVID, especially as we come out of a really stressful period, that they're vilified, exactly like you said. Yeah. I will balance that. And this is a bit of I will balance the shared belief that most people go into the medical profession to do good and to heal, as opposed to harm, quote. But they, unfortunately, women's health, and especially menopause and perimenopause, and I'd love to define that in a second, because there are some misconceptions in what we're talking about when we talk about menopause. But menopause has unfortunately been left out of the training. So there is a stat which is oftentimes shocking to many people, which is that less than 20% of OBGYN residency programs offer menopause training at all. So 80% of the OBGYNs that are, birthed, you could say, into the world.
Get it?
don't know training on menopause. And so what that means and how that translates is that we have members at Elektra who had an incredible OB experience, right? They might have delivered 2 or 3 babies, because so much of the training is focused on the OB part of the equation. Yes. But as women move into their 40s and 50s, just are not receiving the care and treatment, and really the most recent developments on the scientific and kind of innovation perspective around menopause. There's a gap. And so again,
they're not receiving their care.
This is just where our medical community has prioritized.
Which is why we need to have the education so that we can really ask questions and also meet our providers where they're at. And that brilliant OB for baby birthing might not be your best OB for menopause stuff. And that doesn't make that OB a bad OB. That makes them really good at that thing. And this other person really good at something else. And being able to create that filter for yourself. Ooh, I like that perspective shift. Or just like clarifying that.
And to that point, so as we're talking a bit about, because I know many of the people listening are in, call it mothering years or reproductive years. And that definition is expanded, right? Especially as people are giving birth later. But so to define perimenopause and menopause, little Meno 101 or Biology 101 here. Yes. So menopause is literally one day in time. It's literally one day, or it's the day that you've gone 12 months consecutively without a period. So it indicates the end of your period. Everything or not everything, but there's a phase before that day that's called perimenopause. And that's when symptoms start to arise. It's almost like a reverse puberty where your hormones are going a little bit out of whack. Perimenopause is oftentimes, and even just around the time of menopause, is oftentimes actually likened a lot to postpartum because there's a sharp decrease in estrogen and progesterone, or varying levels of progesterone. And so that's when a lot of the common symptoms start to arise. And then everything after, so the period after menopause is called technically called post-menopause, but most people just say you're in menopause. You can be post-menopause for 30 years. Women spend on average a third of their life post-menopause. So this is not like you are over the hill. This is like the time for you to thrive and travel and kind of lean into being the best version of yourself. But the average age, and I know this is kind of a lot of facts here, but the average age of menopause is 51.
That is the 1 year anniversary.
That's the day of your last period.
Yes.
So perimenopause is really early to mid 40s. And so as we're talking about empowering people to go in and start to ask and learn and say, what can I be doing? What should I be doing as my body and physiology is changing? It's scary and people don't like to admit it. And I know there's a lot of cultural and societal stigma around it. But that does women such a disservice. I think starting to think about this and being proactive in your health around perimenopause, the perimenopausal years, is really important. About 80% of women will experience at least one symptom. So it's very common. It's nothing to be ashamed about, and highly encourage you. And there are solutions. There are things you can do, no matter what your provider says or what society tells you. There are things you can do.
That's what I was thinking when you were saying, like, it can start in your early to mid 40s, right? Mm-hmm. Which we don't think of that, right?
No one knows the term perimenopause. Everyone knows menopause, but it's like perimenopause is really what we're oftentimes talking about.
Right. And like you're saying, menopause is one day. Perimenopause is like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And if we know that, and we can have some tools and we can support these hormone fluctuations, we can also suffer less. We can suffer less by, adjusting the intensity of our workouts based on what we're seeing in our physical symptoms, what we're feeling, and know that that's a result of a chemical shift, so we can actually support our bodies, which is going to help support the symptoms that you're feeling. We can then maybe have a laugh about those hot flashes, which, I experienced them postpartum, and I remember being like, this is what menopause is going to be like. I'd be like, this is insane. This is ridiculous. And you can then talk, like, even just to be able to speak about it with your friends and commiserate makes it less shitty. You're not alone. You're not weird. You and your body are not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right. Mm-hmm. And I remember working with a client who, like, I'm closer in age to her daughter than I am to her, and she had gone through menopause, and she said, she was like, no one tells you it's like puberty again. Like, I was a teenager, the hormone surges, the rage, the moodiness, and I found that really stuck with me, and I've really held on to that, and I was like, that makes so much sense. And why don't we talk about it like that? Instead, a woman in her late 40s starts having mood swings or getting angry, and it's like we make fun, she must be going through menopause. Like, it's so crappy of us, and that contextualized it in such an effective way. And I love what you said, that it's like reverse puberty, because it is. We go from not childbearing to then we have puberty, we childbear, and then it's reverse puberty, and then, like you said, then we get to live our best freaking lives. You don't have to pack period underwear or a tampon or worried you're going to bleed through something or feel crummy or be constipated.
Can I build on that? Because it's really important, because I say the 34 symptoms and you feel crappy and menopausal rage, and there's this whole range. It's like the grim reaper of menopause arises as I start to talk through things. But the important thing, it's important to talk about the positives, right? And you just mentioned it. So you don't have to deal with periods or birth control, or for some women that can be difficult, right? Especially if they weren't able to have a child, or if it does end up an opportunity. So we like to acknowledge that. And some of the things that we hear from our members is, one, I just don't give a shit anymore. I hope I can say that.
Yes, you can. And also, like, do we have to wait to embrace that? Can I not give a shit anymore right now? Yes.
No, but it's right, because you're not governed by certain things, which hormones can be power, but it also on the other side, there's just a little bit of some clarity that comes with it. The second thing we hear is that it offers oftentimes a really big time of transformation and opportunity to change. We don't really use that term, but I think there's growth and change, and kind of it's oftentimes a really critical point. As women are looking to who they want to be when they grow up, right? The third area that we hear quite a bit is that there's almost a burst of creativity that comes with it. It's like this evolution into the next version of yourself, which pairs with transformation. But I absolutely love that framing. Now, it's important that you feel well in the lead up to that, right? And so it's important to seek solutions. And you touched on something that is really also critically important too, which is not just the physical aspects to it, but the emotional. So 40% of women in perimenopause experience depression, and that's a result largely of hormonal fluctuations. But that's a study from pre-COVID, so who knows where we are now.
we all have anxiety and depression now. So right now it's 100% of participants, but
it's exacerbated by, all right?
Yes.
Let's at least just, own the fact that it's exacerbated.
And again, this information that because of these hormonal shifts, we are going to be more, I don't want to say susceptible because that makes me feel like, I'm going to go out and catch depression. But like that I might be more prone to feeling that way because of what's happening in my body. That again, there is a reason. This is a cause and effect, and this is part of a transition and a process that is going on because of this circumstance. As again, rather than, I feel like there's so much around like I must be doing something wrong. It's me. It's not you.
It, right?
Yeah.
And it's not. I'll just own. Right. I've had a really tough week, and I was showing up. At the end of the day, I think on Tuesday, I just took a moment to myself, and I was like, how did I show up today, and what's going on? And I was able to attribute so much of my experience actually to my hormones and the way I was reacting to certain externalities, as opposed to thinking that it's just all in my head, or there's so much anxiety that's pent up in there as a result of my brain. No, it's how my body is facing just some recent hormonal health challenges that I've faced. And so when you're able to kind of put it in its place, it makes it far less scary.
And it then gives you a tool to then, if it's like, you get an invitation to a thing or someone wants to meet up, you can actually be like, you know what? I shouldn't do that right now because I'm showing up like this, and this social setting, this individual person, this whatever time of day doesn't vibe well with me when I'm like this. I need to push this back. That's, there's also so many conversations going around cycle syncing, and that's a whole separate thing, but it's again, it's this developing a fluency, gaining knowledge and education around hormonal health, which is so important for women. And I'm so glad that we've defined sort of how perimenopause is a period of time. It is a transition. It is a process. And then menopause is the 1 year anniversary. It's one day. I mean, culturally, we should probably make it a thing like I had a bat mitzvah when I turned 13, which also happened to be the week I got my period. That worked out. But like, I should probably have we should all have another party on that date and celebrate, or I mean,
well, you can celebrate, you can mourn, you can feel however you need to feel. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it, but mark it. Yeah. Like mark it and acknowledge it and make it something big, because it's something big.
We've talked about that. We've spoken with members who actually have done that.
I love it.
Bring your coven together. Bring your group together.
Yes.
Howl at the moon. I'm joking here, but as someone who we've taught our daughter how to howl at the moon, that was a very important early step for her.
I love it.
I think it's important to celebrate. And one thing, and this sometimes feels like it might fall, it's not further afield, but is worth mentioning too, because you might have people here that are going through this, is that menopause is also not just related to age. Don't get me wrong. The vast majority of who we work with and who we support and provide personalized care and expertise for is in that 40 to 50 range. Yeah. And there's also kind of two key components, two groups of women as well who are experiencing menopause that oftentimes feel left out of the conversation. The first one is women who have hysterectomies. Yep. So especially, I'm sure you've talked about endometriosis and PCOS and people who have to undergo hysterectomies, who are put into immediate menopause as a result of a surgery. The second group is women who are navigating breast cancer, actually, who are put into kind of chemically induced menopause as a result of some of their medication. And so we actually see people in their 20s and 30s on our platform as well. And so it's just, how do we redefine this word that has just, been associated with bad Chardonnay jokes and, hot flash jokes and just, unfortunately vilified, but how do we make it more inclusive and less stigmatized? Because every single woman will go through this.
Will experience it.
And trans men. So that's a whole other category and discussion as well. But it's just time to talk about it. And so I so appreciate you kind of opening up the conversation here.
Yes.
It's not to be avoided. It's something to be celebrated, like you said.
Yes. And I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. Yes, I am doing this for my listener, on behalf of all of us. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this really is born from my desire to know what's coming. And is that because I run anxious and have a history of anxiety? Maybe. Is it because I value education? Probably also that too. So many reasons, but also I like to know what's coming. And the reality is this is coming. Yeah. It's coming at some point. And how much easier will that be for me when I start feeling whatever my symptom is, when I then Google symptoms of perimenopause and I see myself, that I can be like, okay, I can now obviously text all of my group texts, every doctor who I am friends with, right? Call my doctor, make an appointment, and start having the conversations that I need to have so that I feel supported and I don't feel lost at sea during what is a transition. And I've talked about this on this podcast. My ballet teacher always said transitions are expensive. And in dancing, that's how it separates the student from the professional. That is expensive. That they are hard as hell. And when you can really move through them, right, that takes a lot of freaking work to make, to have it be smooth, because really they're hard. Yeah. That change is hard, and to also let us be like, this is hard, and here are the things that I can do to make it easier and improve my experience in this. So what I would love to hear just a little bit more is, or I guess I hear about it a little bit more explicitly, and the links to everything, Elektra, are in the show notes. Follow on Instagram, check them out. But, what do you guys provide? How are you helping us? And do I, who is pregnant and so not yet perimenopause, but who knows? There are also women who after postpartum start that shift and go right into it. And maybe that's me. I don't know. But where I am, Is there education that I can go to? When do we find you? What do we get? Just tell me about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't even know what I'm asking.
One piece of one recommendation, regardless of where you are in your journey, is if you have the ability to, please speak with the women in your family about their experience. It is not one-to-one, and it's not going to be, that's just a small kind of piece of advice to say, ask your mother or aunts or others. Again, it can vary across families, but there's oftentimes some similarities. And so it's helpful to know, without creating fear, just what's up ahead. In terms of what Elektra provides, or when you start to suspect that you might be experiencing this, our 3 core pillars are 1, education, 2, care, and 3, community. So at the core of what we do, and we offer a membership where women can come on, sign up, get access to our platform. That really at the center and the crux of this is what we call them Elektra guides, but you can think of them like menopause doulas. They're RNs who are trained up in our proprietary care model. And I'll share a little bit about our kind of philosophy and approach, but you're really paired one-on-one with someone to, talk through what is going on, understand your symptoms, in a 30-minute call, and then, you have unlimited texting and unlimited access to these guides to start to build out a wellness plan that meets you where you are. In those wellness plans, and again, I wish I could say this is the exact prescription that we give every single person, but it's not the case because every woman is unique.
Yes.
And you might be experiencing sleep issues, whereas someone else is experiencing brain fog, right? So we have to be really personalized on that front. But what our guides or what our doulas do for women is to address your top symptoms and then build out a plan that meets your preferred approach. So that's either lifestyle and behavioral change recommendations, or it could be supplements and over-the-counter products to help ease or address symptoms. Or the third bucket is, prescriptions, even whether it's hormone therapy or some of the prescriptions that might be accessible to you. And so it's a very iterative process. You have to kind of come together, especially as symptoms evolve. But that's really the core of what Elektra does. We do offer telemedicine in certain states and looking to expand. So if you need to, prescribe or get kind of that care, we can do that. That's the core, call it, value that we offer. But we also offer education and community on top of that. And this is really critical because I can tell you from experience in working with the thousands of folks on our platform that sometimes you just want to read something that answers a question quickly or gives you a depth of knowledge. Or you want to ask a question to the community of, I got this recommendation. How did this work for you? Or what are some of the things that,
just
work?
here's some.
That's how we operate as women, right? I don't want to say everyone, but it's you get a recommendation and then you kind of, the first thing you do is oftentimes you text your group chain.
I literally said, once I have a symptom, I'm going to text all of my group, every group text I'm on. That's where you start.
So we're looking to build that kind of how we operate and build that into one dedicated platform that you get access to that supports you over your journey. I'll add that we are currently, as anyone can go on and sign up, and we'll be offering you a discount, which we'll include in the linked notes.
Amazing.
But so as an individual, you can sign up for the Elektra platform, but we're also looking to work with employers and health plans as well.
Yes.
To offer this as part of the benefit offering.
Yes.
It is our mission.
Yes.
We want to make this accessible, and we want to make this available to as many people as possible. And so we've partnered with Mass General Brigham Health Plan, which is our first partner. We're working with Emblem Health, which is a health plan in New York. We have kind of a deeper roster of employers that we're working with because it is the start of this. And if you're listening, and you want to bring Elektra to your employer, or you'd like to kind of make this be part of your offerings, we would love, love, love to hear from you. You can email me at founders@electrahealth.com. That is my kind of call to action here. Outside of signing up for Elektra, if you need immediate support, we would love to. We want to build a movement to make menopause care and support just a part of your healthcare offerings. So.
Well, and you are doing it. The fact that like you've already partnered with Mass General, with Emblem, that, talking to companies and incorporating this, like I'm sitting over here like, yes, like make it part of our whole system, that this is even recognized as a thing, and that it's a direct invitation, sign, affirmation to women and to people going through menopause that like, yes, this is a thing, and there are things you can do. Come and get it.
Yeah.
Come and get it. Here it is.
And your experience matters.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Alessandra, I'm obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with Elektra. I am so here for this movement. Listeners, like, check this out. Follow, send to someone you know, and always, like you said, Alessandra, and I, with so many things, I'm like, your assignment when you're leaving here now is like, have a conversation. Talk to someone. This is your invitation. Talk to, whether it's your best friend, go ahead, text that group text. You know which one I'm talking about. Call your mom, get in touch with other women in your life who've experienced this, and have a conversation. It's not awkward. It's not taboo. If there's someone in your mind that you're thinking of and you're like, I want to ask this person, I can almost guarantee you that person is going to so appreciate that you see them in that experience, because especially if they've already gone through it, they probably felt pretty fucking invisible through it. And this is part of us making this visible and normalizing this conversation around this very real thing that is a part of the female experience.
Mm-hmm. So, and if everything that you said, Alyssa, and more, I will pile on to that to say that in the last 2 to 3 weeks, Michelle Obama was on the cover of People magazine talking about her menopause experience. Oprah came out talking about her menopause experience. So if you want to
be like Michelle and Oprah,
if you want to be in the company of genius and the greats, just be, what would Michelle do is basically my mantra. Be like bracelets. Michelle.
We need bracelets. We need sweat. We need swag.
That's going to be my side hustle.
Yes. Be like Michelle. What would Michelle do? What would Oprah do? Absolutely. Exactly. Oh my God. Alessandra, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for diving in and founding Elektra, following that idea, that intuitive pull that I'm sure was a very scary leap. Founding anything is. Seriously, thank you for everything that you do and continue to do. We are here to support you and root you on and spread the word.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, and thank you for everything you do to normalize, to empower, to just have these conversations. It is so important. So thank you so much, and more soon.
More soon.
Thank you so much for sharing your precious time with me. I am so happy that you're here. I hope this episode resonated with you and maybe even inspired some insight into the myth of motherhood and how that shows up for you in your life. If you found yourself nodding your head along with this episode thinking, oh my God, did Alyssa read my journal? Or I feel so seen. Or even I'll have what she's having. You can. Check out our incredible community over in the private Facebook group Moms Club and visit me at alyssa-alter.com to download your free guide to the 20 things no one tells you about pregnancy and postpartum. Remember, there is no one right way to be a mother. There is only your right way. See you next week.